Hi everyone, welcome to Creeps. My name is Lindsay. I am one of the reference librarians at Radnor Memorial Library, and I am a walking true crime encyclopedia. I hope everyone's doing well as we're coming up on spring here, and I hope the good weather brings about some good moods. Now, those of you who know me know that true crime is not the only thing I have an entirely unhealthy obsession with. I am a huge horror nerd. Books, movies, TV shows, you name it. I've probably read it, heard about it, seen it, and no matter how bad it is, which is something I'm not, necessarily proud of, but so today's case is actually something that's a bit of a mashup. It spawned a popular horror book and then a movie, and then it's something that I know that people know of, but don't actually know the story behind. So today I actually want to look at the DeFeo family murders. Yeah, probably most famous for its location, which is Amityville, New York. Yes, the Amityville Horror. The Lutz family that moved in after the murders would jumpstart this crazy series of movies and legends, even going as far as to bring in the famed demonologist, the Warrens, to take a look at the house. But the murders themselves would actually turn out to be a little more bizarre than George Lutz's little haunted house story. So let's begin. Our cast of characters is kind of short. So we have the DeFeo family. Ronald, Big Ronnie Sr., and his wife, Louise, nee Brigante, and their 5 kids. Ronald, Ronnie, Butch Jr., 23, Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, Mark, 12, and John Matthew, 9. While this mostly involves just the family, one other name is dropped, which is Louis Fellini, a known mob hitman. So there's a lot to cover here to the lead up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to barrel through some fast facts just to kind of set it up for you guys. So number one, in 1965, the DeFeos finished having their brood of kids, finally, I guess that was done and over with now, by the now famous Dutch colonial style house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, which is a short drive from Long Island. The sign out front of the house says High Hopes on it. Yeah. This house was bought with mob money because both Louise and Ronald Sr. had ties to the mob. Number two, Ronald Sr. was a hothead, had a really short fuse, a known bully, and took immense joy in bullying his oldest son, Butch. Eventually, though, by the time Butch was a teenager, he outweighed his dad, and he was taller than him, and he flipped the table. He became the bully instead. This became a problem because he had these severe anger issues, and his parents sent him to therapy, and when that didn't work, they just kind of caved into all of his antics. They gave him whatever he wanted. They gave him money. They bought him cars, boats, guns, you name it. And he was a full-blown brat by the age of like 17 because of all of this. As he got older, I guess they told him to get out of the house, so he got some odd jobs, and he got real heavy into drugs and even more into guns. And he had this tendency to leave work early because he was just bored. Yeah. So that'll give you an idea of what this guy's like. So the number 4. At some point, he actually almost killed his father. His mother and his father were arguing, and Butch came downstairs to, I guess, defend his mom and shoved a gun into his father's face, telling him that he was going to kill him. He actually pulled the trigger, but the gun somehow miraculously jammed and didn't fire. So he just calmly walked away. So if that doesn't give you an idea of what the relationship is in a nutshell, I'm not sure how the following part of this timeline is really going to help you, because there's some serious things going on here. So, okay, we're mostly caught up. We're at the year of the murders. The events leading up to them actually started a few weeks before, when Butch got himself into trouble for what probably would have been the last time. He was tasked with the simple job of dropping off the money to a bank from the dealership that his father worked at. I really don't know who gave him this task or who thought this would be a good idea. Researching true crime in general has kind of shown countless and absolutely stunningly stupid things happening that could have easily been avoided with like a single brain cell sometimes. So Yeah, anyway, okay, so getting back to Butch and his little task, he decides that he's going to make it look like it was a robbery and he's just going to keep the money. So he gets this accomplice and then he ends up splitting it with him. He took 2 hours to come back to the dealership and tell them what happened, saying that he was held up at gunpoint. And then, obviously, because of that, the police were called and they immediately start poking holes in his story. This ended up with his father accusing him of taking the money, and Butch threw this adult-sized temper tantrum in the parking lot. He started banging on the hood of his car, screaming, yelling how he was a victim, all of that. It was a fit, and it was even noted in the police report that the police actually backed away to give him room just so he could, have his little snit fit. So, okay. Well, the police go along with the story for about a week, even though they're suspicious of him, asking him to look at some mugshots, which he does agree to. And then he backs out of it last minute. So when he's confronted about it again by his dad, he tells him he's going to kill him again, and he drives away. Now, the next part is half confession, half scene reconstruction, because Butch isn't exactly a trustworthy dude. And we'll see later on that he kind of screwed around with some other stuff. So here's what we know, and here's what went down. On November 14th, 1974, Butch was either in the basement or in his bedroom watching TV. The sources vary on that. It's early morning hours. It's around 2:30 in the morning, and the rest of the family is asleep. He picks up his brand new gun, which is a .35 caliber Marlin. Right, it's a rifle. He loads it and he heads into his parents' bedroom. He fires 2 shots into his dad, and then it's believed that his mother had started to wake up at the sound, and he quickly shoots her in the back. Now he moves on to his brother's room. One of his brothers has a wheelchair that he uses, so that's by the bed. And he fires a single shot into each of them. Okay. And then he moves into his sister's room. Now this one's a little bit different. Both were killed at close range. Dawn and Allison were both killed at close range, each with a shot to the face, direct shoot to the face. Evidence and placement of the shot show that they were actually both looking up when it happened, which means they probably heard him when he came in. And Dawn in particular had been shot so closely that half of her face was missing. Yeah. So it's now 3 a.m. It actually took him less than 15 minutes to take out his entire family. Now here I'd like to point out some things that make this a little weird. The neighbors, who are less than 40 feet away on each side of the house, heard nothing. They heard absolutely no shots. Nothing. No commotion, nothing. The entire family was also found face down in their beds, with no evidence of anyone having gotten up or moved when they heard these shots. So it doesn't really make any sense why they would all just be calmly killed. Like, it's a little strange. So the only other thing that the neighbors reported was that their dog Shaggy was tied up out back and was barking through the whole thing, but absolutely nothing aside from that. So what does this guy do after he does this? He cleans himself up. He trims his beard. He changes into his work clothes, bundles the bloody clothes and the rifle, and drives into Brooklyn. He deposits them into a storm drain and then heads into work at 6 a.m. These items were later recovered. So he goes about his day like nothing's wrong. He makes a show out of calling home several times, feigning concern because no one's picking up. So, like usual, he leaves work early to go visit his girlfriend and his friends, and then spends most of the rest of the day shooting up heroin. Yeah, no big. Just leave your family to decompose. It's all cool. All cool. So later on in the day, he has a friend ask him to meet him at a bar, where he says he's going to stop home and check on his family. And then minutes later, he comes running into the bar. Now, this part I thought was kind of funny because he wasn't very well liked around town. And the people that were in the bar were locals, and they knew him. And they said that this whole thing was a little melodramatic and a bit over the top, even for him. I don't know why, but I found this kind of funny. So he comes screaming into the bar, yelling about how his family's been shot, and the police come and they find the DeFeos dead. And at this point, it's been about 15 hours since he shot them all. So he gets dragged into the kitchen by the police and immediately starts being questioned. He gives them a name, Louis Fellini, an alleged mob hitman who mentions that Fellini has a grudge against the family. So now the police are a little wary because it's New York, it could be possible, and they take him to the station in case he's a target. He gives them an account about what he did the night before, which was this. That he had stayed up to watch Castle Keep on TV until 2 a.m. Then he tried to go to bed, but he couldn't sleep. He claimed that around 4 a.m. he heard a toilet flush and he saw his brother's wheelchair out in the hallway. When he left to go to work at 6 a.m., everyone was still alive. But in the morning, more evidence is in and things change. So police go back to doing what they do best to Butch's stories, which is poking holes in them. They immediately realize that things seem off. The family is dressed in bedclothes, and the coroner on the scene makes the damning revelation that the family was definitely killed before 6 a.m. and that it's been pretty much a day since it happened. So, as opposed to the few hours that Butch told them. And then even more incriminating, they find the Marlin box that held the rifle, and they find a box of 34 caliber ammo, which matches the ones in the body. It's the same brand. So Butch changes his story. This time, it is Fellini came in the house with an accomplice that Butch could not identify, holds Butch at gunpoint, and leads him around the house, picking off the family members one by one. He finishes this version by saying that Fellini just left, and that Butch went about tossing and cleaning up any evidence that he could find, including that 35 caliber box of ammo. But when asked why he would have done that, because wouldn't Fellini have used his own gun and his own ammo? Why would he hide his own box of ammo? Butch finally breaks down and gives them what they think is the closest thing to the truth. So I will save you the gory details of the trial, but needless to say, Butch DeFeo was arrested for the murders of his family and locked away. He's actually still alive. He's serving out the rest of his sentence at Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. But the story does not end there. No. He has filed many appeals, and every single one of them has been shot down. And you know why? Because every time he files, there's a different story as to what happened. So let's take a look at some of these because they're wild. Number one, of course, we have the mob hit by Fellini. However, they found Fellini. He was in New Jersey at the time of the murders, had no idea this happened, and his alibi checked out. Number two, DeFeo drugged his whole family, and that's why nobody moved. But the examiner found no drugs in any of their systems, cleaned out, the organs to really double check, and there's nothing. Number three, what I like to call the I absolutely have it out for my dead sister stories. Here we go. Dawn did it single-handedly. Dawn had an accomplice that Butch couldn't identify. Dawn killed their father, and then their distraught mother killed the rest of them. Dawn killed their father, and then their distraught mother asked her to kill her. And finally, Butch, working with Dawn, and possibly some of her friends, because the family was secretly plotting to kill him. And then finally, number four, some dude named Ramondo and a woman that Butch ended up marrying after the fact. You know what? I don't even know. I don't even know. This guy has run his mouth so much in the last few decades that it's impossible. It's just mush at this point. So who knows? But there is one theory that doesn't come from Butch, and it's a conspiracy theory that a sonic gun was used to kill the family with air bullets. Yeah, you heard that right. I'm not even gonna justify explaining that one. Yeah. So let's wrap this up. Does this answer the question of if 112 Ocean Drive or Ocean Avenue is haunted? Who knows? Did something terrible happen in the house? Yes. Do I think George Lutz might have been crazy? Also yes. But that's a whole nother series that I haven't been given free rein to do. So for recommendations, one book, one podcast, one documentary. One book, The Night the DeFeos Died by Rick Osuna is a popular choice. It goes into their background, the murders, and the trial. If you want to read the Let's side of it, the Amityville Horror that was written by their lawyer, that's out there. So if you want to read that, by all means. One podcast, like many of the ones that I have mentioned on here, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier. Yes, there is a language warning on most of them. This one is Timesuck. Timesuck did an episode dedicated to this case. Dan's a comedian. Dan Cummins is a comedian, and he is a bit of a potty mouth, so he's a wild card. But it's a really interesting episode, and he does bring up the sound gun theory, which is kind of funny. So, and then one documentary, Shattered Hopes: The True Story of the Amityville Murders, has, I think, a couple parts to it, and they are narrated by Ed Asner. It seems like it's available on Prime. So there we have it. I know it wasn't like super crazy, but the Amityville Horror, also known as the DeFeo murders. I hope everyone had a good time watching this episode, and signing off, I hope everyone is staying safe, staying healthy, and I will see you all at the library. Take care. Bye. Chunky boy. You hate when I do these, I know. Too bad. What do you have to say?